When news broke late this past season that a new team was entering the Truck Series to replace Kyle Busch Motorsports as the new top Toyota team, it drew the attention of many fans, especially with a flashy and standout name like TRICON Garage. This new team even announced that one of the top Truck Series prospects and Toyota development drivers, Corey Heim, would be joining their roster for the 2023 season. But who is behind this new team? What other drivers will be racing for them? And what are their expectations performance-wise for this coming year? First of all, TRICON Garage is not really a new team at all. It's simply a rebrand for the former Ford team Gilliland Racing, owned by, David Gilliland. This past year, they were most known as Hailie Deegan's team, as they fielded the number 1 Monster Energy Ford F-150 for her full time. For those only familiar with Deegan, you probably think they aren't the best team and have more or less held her back with subpar equipment, but actually have won 4 times since their first season in 2018, including 3 times in the time Deegan has raced for them. But the strange thing about DGR is that all but one of their wins have not come with their own full-time drivers, because other than Tyler Ankram's win back in 2019, all 3 of their most recent triumphs have come with Cup-experienced drivers racing for them part-time. Ryan Preece, who raced in the Cup Series consistently since 2019 and is set to race for Stewart-Haas this year, delivered 2 of their wins, both in Nashville in 2021 and 2022, and Todd Gilliland, who made his rookie Cup campaign last year with Front Row Motorsports and had 2 prior Truck Series wins to his name, gave DGR the win at Knoxville in 2022. Obviously, Hailie Deegan's yet to win in the Truck Series, but neither has her full-time teammate for the past 2 years, Tanner Gray. Gray has finished higher in points than Deegan with a 14th overall back in 2020 and has a higher personal best finish in a race as he recorded 3rd place on 4 separate occasions. Meanwhile, Hailie's only managed to finish 17th in points with a best finish of 6th in a race. So, even though DGR is one of only 2 Ford teams in the series with manufacturer support, the other being Front Row Motorsports, and they have 4 team wins in their very short history, it can be certainly argued that they still aren't up to par with other supposedly top Truck Series teams. But now, entering the 2023 season, because Kyle Busch and his longtime team Joe Gibbs Racing parted ways and Kyle moved to Richard Childress Racing, his Truck Series team Kyle Busch Motorsports will now have to run under the Chevrolet banner. And because 2 of his drivers from 2022, John Hunter Nemechek and Corey Heim, are under contract with Toyota, they were no longer eligible to compete for his team. Nemechek will now be racing for Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series, while as already mentioned, Heim will be racing for TRICON Garage. Kyle Busch's 3rd main driver, Chandler Smith, was the only one not under contract with Toyota, but since he had such a great season in 2022 with 3 wins and a championship 4 appearance, he was promoted into the Xfinity Series by powerhouse Chevy team Colleague Racing. With KBM now running Chevrolets, there was really no other solid Toyota teams left in the Truck Series. There was Tory Racing, who won the championship with Brett Moffitt in 2018 and totaled 8 wins with Austin Hill between 2019 and 2021. However, last season they opted to sign Tyler Ankram and Chase Purdy, who both failed to win or even make the playoffs. There's also Homer Friesen Racing, which had a fair amount of success in trucks, including a win and a 6th place points finish last year, but as of yet, they've only ran 1 full-time truck for Stuart Friesen himself, so not exactly a good team in terms of driver development for Toyota. Needless to say, they needed to look elsewhere for 2023, and they saw a lot of potential in David Gilliland Racing. Even if it meant losing their most marketable driver, Hailie Deegan, who's under contract with Ford, Gilliland knew it was too good of a deal to pass up, so he agreed to switch manufacturers from Ford to Toyota for the start of the 2023 season, and become basically the Kyle Busch Motorsports 2.0. For this significant change, the team also wanted to rebrand themselves and start over fresh, so they settled on the name TRICON, which is a combination of the words triple and icon. I also love the usage of the word garage in their name as opposed to nearly every other team in NASCAR, which just uses racing or motorsports. Anyway, as of right now, the TRICON Garage team is planning on running 5 full-time trucks for 2023, with, as already mentioned, Corey Heim, who will drive the number 11 truck, brothers Tanner and Taylor Gray, who will drive the number 15 and 17 trucks, and Dean Thompson, who will be behind the wheel of the number 5 machine. The 5th full-time truck will be the number 1 that Hailie Deegan drove last season, except now will be driven by a variety of part-time drivers, likely both Cup drivers and young up-and-coming drivers from ARCA. But what kind of results can we expect from each of these teams? Well, first up with Corey Heim, he has so far won 2 races in only 19 career Truck Series starts, all of which came for Kyle Busch Motorsports between 2021 and 2022. With Ty Gibbs now in the Cup Series and Chandler Smith now running for Chevrolet, I think it's safe to say it's very close between Corey and John Hunter Nemechek as to who's the best Toyota driver in the lower series. On top of that, given his success in ARCA, I see a lot of Cup potential in Corey, and I think it's very realistic that he'll be driving for Joe Gibbs Racing or 2311 Racing in a few years from now. But as to how he will perform for TRICON Garage, I will have to guess at least 3 wins and a round of 8 playoff run. Really, anything else would be a step back from the trajectory he was on last year. At best, I can see Corey getting up to 5 or 6 wins and winning the championship. Regardless, based on how he did in his time for Kyle Busch Motorsports, he should be one to watch all season long. I'll go over Tanner Gray next. I've already touched on his statistics a bit, as in his 3 full-time seasons for the team already, he has never finished better than 3rd in a race and never qualified for the playoffs. No matter how you look at it, he's underperforming, but I think there's a good chance we finally see him get a win in 2023. He's been within striking distance on a number of occasions, and while he isn't the most consistent driver, with possibly faster trucks coming from the Toyota Alliance, I think he can get it done at least once on any oval track. If he doesn't win, or wins after the playoffs begin, I unfortunately don't foresee much changing in regard to his average finish, and he will probably miss the playoffs again. Especially given how competitive the Truck Series will be next year, with his own teammate Corey Heim, as well as Rajai Caruth, Daniel Dye, and Nick Sanchez all going full-time with good teams for the first time. I think you almost have to win and make the playoffs. At this point, I think there's even a good chance that for the first time, more drivers will get a win than there's spots for in the playoffs, which we nearly saw happen for the Cup Series playoffs last year. Anyway, I think it's really up in the air how Tanner will do this year, but if I had to put in a final guess, I would say he gets 1 win after the playoffs begin and finishes around 12th in points. Next is his younger brother Taylor Gray. He'll be competing full-time in trucks for the first time. That's because previously he was too young to compete on any tracks greater than 1.25 miles long, as he must be 18 to do so. In 2021 and 2022, Taylor raced for the then DGR team, and in a total of 13 starts, he only netted 2 top 10s. To be honest, even for his inexperience, that's not the best. However, I would say overall, as of now, he looks to have more talent than Tanner, because in his 2022 ARCA campaign, he showed a lot of improvement from years prior, not to say he was even doing that bad before. In the end, he picked up 3 wins in the ARCA Menard Series, in addition to 1 East Series win and another West Series win. He's definitely not a generational talent like, say, Ty Gibbs, but I think he's capable of at least 1 truck win in 2023. Also, just to clarify for those wondering, he will 100% be playoff eligible, even though he will still be 17 until the 4th race of the season, and will therefore have to miss the first 3 races. We saw this happen with Tyler Ankrum back in 2019, who also missed the first 3 races of the season, but after his win at Kentucky, NASCAR still granted him a spot in the playoffs because he competed in every event since his 18th birthday. Given that, it won't necessarily be impossible for Taylor to make the playoffs without winning, but it just about will be. He'll pretty much need to win and be fairly consistent in the case that more than 10 full-time drivers win a race. And do I think he will? Well, in my opinion, it's about a 50-50 whether he gets that win and finishes around 7th in points, or doesn't and lands around 14th overall because of those first 3 missed races. And now for the last driver that has so far been announced for TRICON Garage, Dean Thompson. This announcement kind of took me for surprise because in his rookie year last year from Nice Motorsports, he really underperformed. Comparing him to his Nice teammate Carson Hocevar, who had 3 runner-up finishes and made the playoffs, Dean didn't even score a single top 10 and only managed to get 5 top 20s. Based on the only paint scheme that's been released so far for his upcoming season with TRICON, it appears to be sponsored by his family company, Thompson Pipe Group. We'll have to wait and see what other sponsorship he has before jumping the gun and calling him a paid driver. Last year's number 42 was almost always sporting the Worldwide Express stickers, but I don't believe they've announced whether they'll be returning yet. As far as what we can expect out of Dean next year, I'm actually a bit more optimistic than most are. First of all, it's not like he's a bad driver. He's had plenty of success in the late model ranks, having won back-to-back late model track championships in 2020 and 2021 at the highly competitive Irwindale Speedway. Also, he is still only 21 years old, so he has a lot of time to learn and develop as a NASCAR driver. And finally, I'm not also sure that the trucks in Nice Motorsports were equally prepared last season. They very well could have been, but while Carson Hocevar typically ran around 10th or better, the other 3 trucks of Thompson, Lawless Allen, and Chris Wright usually hung around each other in 20th to 25th. Carson could really be that much better, but I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between. With that said, I think Thompson has a chance at getting a win, but is probably the least likely of the full-time TRICON drivers to do so. My final prediction is that he will get a handful of top 10s and finish around 13th or 14th overall when it's all said and done. So, what are your thoughts on how TRICON Garage will perform next season? I'd love to read your opinions in the comments down below. Also, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you did enjoy this video, as you won't want to miss out any future videos like these and my weekly silly season news recaps. But that's all I've got to say for today, so until next time, peace out.